Welcome to Tuesday, January 21st, 2024. The Arctic air mass is going to ease a little bit, but it's still going to be very harsh across the region. Although temperatures are going to be moderating, they certainly did overnight and early this morning in some areas where the wind is picking up, but the wind is the problem. It's absolutely guaranteed when you have an Arctic wave come in, when it starts to move away, you're always going to get some very strong winds right along and east of the Continental Divide. It's just pure physics. When these dense Arctic air masses shift and move out, there's a big pressure gradient. The air gets squeezed through the mountain gaps, and you get these wind events. So lots of blowing snow on roads and highways today. You get out in those open areas where the snow is fine and powdery, it's going to blow and drift and cause poor visibility. Watch for black ice. So take it slow if traveling. We have another weak system dropping out of Canada. This is going to produce light snow for the Canadian prairie provinces. It'll produce some light snow across Montana, northeastern and northern Wyoming, into the Dakotas and parts of Nebraska. It has very little moisture to work with. It's not going to be a big snow event, but some of you will get some snowfall, especially along Interstate 90. And it will reinforce more cold air coming on in. Then over the weekend, another storm system drops out of Canada. This one is going to split a little bit and will offer up a little bit of a different dynamic for the western United States, but it could bring winter weather this weekend to some areas. And so we'll show you where we think that will be. More beautiful shots of sundogs and great Arctic optics. You can see the sundogs here across Belmont, Nebraska, as that Arctic air settles on in. And just lots of mean-looking, angry-looking clouds as that Arctic wave has come through over the last couple of days. Lots of inversions. You get the steam from a power plant or something that gets caught in the cold air inversion, and you just see a lot in these Arctic air masses that you don't normally get to see. Another great shot of a sundog there. Great shot out of Fountain, Colorado. Look at those optics. The atmosphere, when it gets really cold like this and you get these very small ice crystals, you get things just like what you're seeing there. Beautiful landscape shots. When you took a look at the landscape and the vistas yesterday, a lot of blue sky, and that very, very dry Arctic air led to incredible visibilities. Now the visibility will be interrupted by some blowing snow. A lot of thermometers looked like this. Now, maybe not this intense, but yeah, you are seeing that correctly. Minus 39.1 below in the valleys of far western Wyoming. This was yesterday morning. And for the first time in podcast history, we have a photo from the southern hemisphere. Not just the southern hemisphere, but the bottom of it. Thanks, Bo, for sending this photo in from Antarctica. Not only did he send some awesome photos from Antarctica, but also a weather report. Yes, it was 34 degrees in Antarctica yesterday, a lot warmer than what many of you experienced. Of course, it's summer, peak of summer down there right now. Not summer across the lower 48. I showed you this graphic yesterday, and today's graphic is maybe a little bit more impressive in terms of the blue, the purples, and just the huge extent of harsh winter weather conditions across the country. Here we have the Gulf Coast snowstorm, ice conditions and winter weather advisories a little bit further north, wind chill warnings, cold advisories for elsewhere across the nation. And we showed you yesterday that a large part of Louisiana was under a winter storm warning. It gets even better this morning. A blizzard warning is in effect for parts of southern and southwest areas of Louisiana. I don't know if I remember a blizzard warning for Louisiana. I'm sure we can find somewhere in the record books there was one a long time ago, but that may have been before they issued these types of warnings. Just incredible Arctic wave. You can see the Arctic wave a little bit here along the boundary of the cold air, but it doesn't look like much. What you just have is basically an interaction of moist, warm air overriding the Arctic air, just a collision of air masses producing that weather there. Here's the wave out of Alberta that's heading southeast that was coming over and down the backside of the jet stream, which is coming in just like this. So this wave is helping to push against the Arctic air, gets it off the front range and hence the wind, but this wave will come southeast. And as it does so, here's the wave right here. It's going to help push out the deeper Arctic air into the central and eastern parts of the United States, and that's why temperatures will moderate a little bit. You can see temperatures off their average are still well below normal. A big Chinook briefly up here in Canada because of that wave, but you can see all the Arctic air spreading across the rest of the nation. Now, when we take a look at that snowfall, just amazing. From Houston all the way up to southeast Virginia, even up to the coastal areas just off the coast of the mid-Atlantic. More lake effect snows for the Great Lakes. Very much an unusual situation down south. Here are the winds. It is going to be very windy today, tonight, into tomorrow morning, really from New Mexico to Montana, down into Arizona. The Arctic air and the movement of the pressure gradients, this will produce a lot of wind in the west. This will lead to some very cold wind chills here, some very cold wind chills, especially early today elsewhere. And watch out for that blowing snow. You see these little ripples? We got a little ripple here, a little ripple here coming in from the due north. This is during the day tomorrow into Thursday. So these little ripples coming down the jet stream on the backside of the trough will produce weather. And notice the flow is from the north. So any warming trend that we get today into early Wednesday isn't really much. It's just, instead of bitter cold Arctic air, it's just plain old-fashioned cold Canadian air. And we are going to get a little bit of snow on the backside of these little ripples. No one's getting clobbered here, but this area right here, from the Yellowstone Park, Beartooth areas up into the Rocky Mountain front of Montana, then up and around in the Pine Ridge, then back up along Interstate 80. You're going to see some areas that get a couple inches, inch or two of snow, maybe a little bit more in a few spots, a bit more in the Black Hills. Another nice snow for the Bighorns and the Beartooths here in the north side of the Yellowstone Plateau. The mountains of southern Wyoming will get a little bit, then out here on the plains. So just a little bit of snow coming on in that cold northwest flow. Temperatures really still well below average all along the front range here out into the plains. Yes, it won't be as cold, but still, it's going to be chilly. Then as we get into the weekend, it's a little bit of a complex pattern. We still have this very robust high off the west coast. We still are bookending with these big high pressure ridges in the Atlantic, in the Pacific, keeping all of the active weather in the U.S. But this trough, as it comes in, is going to split, with a part of this low going west, the other part of the low going east. What this does is this deposits another shot of very cold air that will come down east of the Continental Divide like this. But with this low kind of going back westward for a bit for a little while, it's going to draw Pacific moisture into the mix. And by Monday morning, the low backs up all the way over Southern California, while the main shot of cold air gets pushed a little bit to the east. But what ends up happening is you get cold air that gets pushed down again along the front range like this, but then we have moisture that comes in the counterclockwise spin around this low. We start to bring in Pacific moisture over the Arctic air that will be along the divide. So what this may end up doing is, as we get into Friday, Saturday, into early Sunday, we'll probably see an area of snow developing kind of in this area here. Now, it probably won't be a lot, but the collision of air masses Friday, Saturday, into early Sunday will occur across northern Colorado, southern Wyoming, northern Utah, into the northern Great Basin. If this low cuts off, and it's looking like it will, it then will eventually head east. So by late in the weekend and early next week, there actually might be some rain and snow down in this part of the world that hasn't seen it in quite a while, and that'll be something to keep an eye on. We'll have more on this weekend pattern for you as we get a little bit closer. We'll have more details for you tomorrow and as we head on into Thursday. Stay warm. Have a good Tuesday.